the role which the spirit of prophecy has played in the remnant church. Bless and do wonderful again, we ask in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay. All right.
Remember, configure your audio, okay?
Oh, I just remembered I have to change it around. Somehow, when several persons are connected via on Zoom, I don't know, it just doesn't sound good using this microphone. So let me just connect with this.
Recording in progress.
You hear me now?
Yes, much better.
All right, we continue on the fruitage of the prophetic gift. I believe we left off right after we mentioned about, let me just share my screen. Are you seeing clearly?
Not seeing anything else yet, brother.
Seeing it.
Seeing what? What is seeing, Shalan? Marvin, is sharing the screen?
Yes. You're not seeing
Yeah,
anything.
we're seeing it.
Yes, I'm seeing it.
Okay,
Change
okay.
the view. Jesus.
Yeah.
Yes, the last thing here says, by invitation of the committee, speaking of Ellen White, by invitation of the committee, and that is the Temperance Committee, by invitation of the Committee of Arrangement, Mayor Austin, as we have said before, W.H. Skinner, cashier of the First National Bank and the CCPV, says, I spoke, this is Ellen White now, I spoke in the Mammoth tent Sunday evening, July the 1st, upon the subject of Christian temperance. God helped me that evening, and although I spoke 90 minutes, the crowd of fully 5,000 persons listened in almost breathless silence. And this was basically profound. Now, here you find it, it's that she was the one that was delivering the message, and she didn't go there in order to listen to what these persons were actually saying. So she was basically the speaker, invited to teach. I didn't mention that part earlier, but I thought it necessary to continue along that line. So again, we have to be careful as to when we see, especially leaders at certain place. We know that apostasy is deep in, especially at present in the Adventist church. But take for instance, whenever any conference officials or general conference official comes, let's say to Jamaica, it is oftentimes that they would meet with, let's say, the prime minister and also the leader of the opposition, and at times also the governor general. And depending on which parish or city that there is a meeting that is going to be held, they oftentimes also would include also the MP, and also the opposition as well. So this is just basically good protocol to follow, especially in regards to Romans chapter 13 about our leaders. And not all times it's basically ecumenical of, in other words, all persons would oftentimes report these gatherings. So we just have to be mindful of that. Thought also necessary to state that as well. All right. If there's no comment on what was said, let us continue our reading. It says that we should read in the treasure chest, page 177, the account of the meeting of the Groveland, Massachusetts, in the year 1876. We'll just skip that for now. Let me just go to 3 then. The champion, to champion those who were wrong. To champion those who were wrong. Let us see what this has to say. Can somebody read this paragraph here for me?
Mrs. White was charged not to neglect or by Mrs. White was charged not to neglect or by the helpless or independent or those who were being wronged. She was to reprove the oppressor and plead for justice. Selected Messages, Book 1, page 33. Her appeals were directed to Seventh-day Adventist churches and institutions where she ever took the side of equity and fair dealing. She was instructed to defend the weak and to take the side of the helpless and dependent ones.
Right. So here she, as the topic states, to champion those who were wrong. Many times, because we are friends with persons, we would normally choose the side of friendship rather than to let fear and equity prevail. But here she doesn't take side regardless of who, not showing respect of persons, but she takes a justified approach in splitting justice, in dealing with, especially to vindicate those who were wrong. I heard somebody was about to say something. Come on, this is not a monologue, you know. We need persons to comment on what was read by Sister Lee as well.
As you mentioned a while ago, sir, the thought of the passage, well, I think I summed it up in that. I summed it up in that the Lord said we are to pray for those in authority. So to know that when she went, she was directing, well, the instructions were guided to authority, where what is to be done was to be carried out to them, because like you mentioned about when the person come to Jamaica and they go to the in charge of the country of Jamaica to have whatever they're going to be done through the knowledge of the person in charge. It also says that as she go, she didn't go to the body before she got to the head. She went to the head to make sure that instructions were delivered for it to be carried out.
All right, thank you very much.
And Brother
Go ahead.
Marvin, I like the fact that she took the side of equity and fair dealing. That was how she was instructed by the Lord. She was instructed to defend the weak and to take the side of the helpless, because these persons don't have anybody to speak for them, and they were very often not not regarded. So the Lord always provides, and the Lord provided her to speak up for those persons who were not able to do so for themselves.
Lovely, lovely. Thank you, Sister Lee and Sister Lo. Can somebody find Proverbs 24, reading 23 to 24? Proverbs 24, reading 23 to 24.
Proverbs
Yes. 24, reading 23 to 24.
23 to 24 says, "These things also belong to the wise. It is not good to have respect of persons in judgment. He that saith unto the wicked, Thou art righteous, him shall the people curse. Nations shall abhor him.
25, go to 25 as well.
But to them that rebuke him shall be delight, and a good blessing shall come upon them."
So here you have it in terms of how she dealt with the persons who were wronged. You can see exactly that her ministry was indeed a blessing approved of God. And she's also likened to be among the wise. Amen?
Elder, James chapter 1, somebody respect of persons as well, or is chapter 2?
James chapter 2 and verse 1.
Yeah.
You can read that for me, please.
My brethren, have not the faith of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Lord of glory, with respect of persons.
Yeah.
And if we continue to read down, there's more, For
Yeah,
if there come unto you assembly of a man, come unto your assembly a man with a gold ring in goodly apparel, and there come in also a poor man in vile raiment, and ye have respect to him that weareth the gay clothing, and say unto him, Sit thou here in a good place, and say to the poor man, Stand thou there, or sit under my footstool. Are ye not then partial in yourselves, and are become judges of evil thoughts?
very profound. Very profound. You become partial. So you only show favoritism to those who are, for want of a better word, in high esteem. And you put down the poor, because the poor is deemed as a lower esteem person. What strikes me here again, Helder, you see how the word gay has a different meaning.
Yes. We're looking at that too. I don't even remember where.
Yeah.
Yes, it's at Heartlands. PR brought it up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
When we are, this is really speaking to the outer appearance, right? Whether a person is dressed nicely in clean clothing and look presentable, as opposed to one who looks homeless and, I don't want to say mad, but homeless, right? Or not properly attired. So the question is this: when you're walking on the streets, if you see someone who, in your mind and the perception you have is someone from the inner city, for instance, pants below him waist, cap, we know how they dress. Do you immediately perceive, or to some extent say, sir, the brother might be a thief or a pickpocket, and walk wide? And if it is that we see someone who is dressed sharply, do we say, this is a nice, respectable person, and there's no fear in walking close by that person? What it is that you in your everyday interaction with people walking on the street, what's your thought process when you see these type of persons, and how do you react when you see them?
Let me see if I can take a touch at
You,
it.
you is collective. You is not you. You is collective. Everybody. That's
Yeah,
it.
I'm going to see if I can take a little touch on it. And it's a very interesting point to raise. It is important. I'm going to start out by saying it is important how one carries themselves, because how you appear to others, you can incite certain perception or one perceive you to be. So with that said, I will go forward by looking at this now. If a scenario presents itself that both person were to approach me needing something, how you actually respond to the request, I believe, is very, very, very important, rather than how the person looks. In other words, you can form your opinion about a person by how they look, but how you deal with them is another. Let's say, for instance, the person that is dressing shabby, pants down and everything, come and says he needs some food. And if a person that is well attired, well dressed and everything, speaking nicely and everything, come and say to you, likewise, he's hungry and is in need of food, who is it that you would better or more inclined to assist? The one that looks really poor and depriving, or the one who looks as though he has need for nothing? So it depends on how the approach is made. A decision would, in my opinion, a decision would have to be made along that line. If the person said to me, I have eaten from morning, make me have to buy some food now. Let's say the person that is shabby, I would say fine also. If the person that is well attired say, listen, I forgot my wallet this morning and I haven't eaten from morning, can you assist me? Here goes. Or the person who is well attired may as well said, I run out of gas. Can you assist me in buying some gas because I left my wallet at home this morning? I never realized, and here I am. Here I am. So you'd have to take each on its merit and not judge only on a perception as to how a person carries themselves, even though that is important and that will nonetheless speak volume to how you actually brace yourself in giving a response.
Elder,
Alright.
can I add something too?
Yes.
No, may I answer the question before you add to what I'm saying? You gotta answer the question. We
No,
really
no.
want to hear the answer from the people's eyes. Good.
Yeah, so here's another side to it, or another way of looking at another application is when you're walking, everybody has their experiences, and everybody's experience is different. And so I remember walking once in Port Antonio, and I saw a madman was there on the side of the road, just sitting down. But he had a machete, and some people would pass, look at him, and then some people were more concerned. But then there was this lady that I don't know what she did to him. I don't think she did. She was just passing, but she had a really concerned and fearful look on her face. And he just started to chase her with the machete. And so while somebody like myself or other people may see them and not be bothered, but somebody that had that experience, I mean, somebody that witnessed that will look to walk wide in the future. And it's not because they're the type of garment or even how, but they just don't know what to expect. And so that too is a part of it in terms of your own personal safety. And so a person that puts themselves together, they would naturally or more likely garner from you a certain degree of trust versus the other person, for the simple reason that they have had that experience. And of course, that is not the truth for every single one of them. But a person's experience is just gonna cause them to to react and to interpret the situation a certain way. And so while we can see both sides, at the end of the day, people might have had experiences that would push them in a certain direction. Again, that may not be our personal experiences, or maybe people on here can share their own personal experiences. But hey, in my mind, they're people, and we love and respect them, and know that they're children of God, even if they're afflicted in the same way. But then there's a part of where wisdom would dictate that you, based on what you're experiencing and what you're seeing and how you're interpreting it, you make decisions accordingly.
Yes, lovely. I may had a personal experience. The fact that you have raised this, I'm going to relay a personal experience. Notice my choice of word. I was deported from Kingston into the country for bad behavior. Right? In my earlier years. And the situation was of such that right in the same time frame, I had a granduncle who was mentally challenged. He chopped one of my basically cousin to death. Now, can you imagine, after you have been sent to the country now, right, where such an experience recently happened, and when you're looking at people, especially some senior and not so senior persons going to their field, the clothes that they have on is not clean, and every one of them have a machete in their hand, well sharp, going to their fields. You know what I did? Based on that experience, Elder, I would normally go and hide in the bush and wait till they pass. I am not passing no person with any machete in their hand. Just by that experience of a cousin who was killed by my granduncle. So I went and I hid myself, and if there's no way to hide myself, I would walk on the extreme side of the road, giving myself opportune time to escape just in case I'm being attacked.
I can understand that based on what you experienced. But I mean, you have some persons without their personal experience would choose to do that just, out of, I guess, fear or hearing from other people or what have happened to others. Not saying that you shouldn't learn wisdom from the experiences of others, but sometimes we take things not as they are, but as to an extreme, let me say, sometimes. And to share a personal experience as well, based on dress. One year I was going to a basketball camp, a camp that I've gone to for years and years. And my sister asked me to stop somewhere for her in New Kingston. That was her husband's birthday. So I had on basketball attire. And they wouldn't let me into the store. Me and a friend of mine were walking. They wouldn't let us into the store to buy the cologne for her husband. And we had to wait until someone who was put together properly was going in, and then we walked in with them, right? When we bought what I went in there to buy and I was leaving, somebody said to me, listen, last week, about 4 men went in there, suit and tie, and robbed the entire place. So in my mind, I'm saying, you're judging based on the fact that we're going to a camp, and based on how we were dressed. You can see that it's sports that we are playing. You are judging us based on our attire, and the persons who you thought were coming in there to spend a lot of money actually came in there and robbed the place, because they were in suit and tie, well-dressed, briefcase, everything. So that's one of the reasons why I asked the question, because we tend to judge just by the look that we see of a person, as opposed to, is this so? Is this person who is dressed like a ragamuffin actually a ragamuffin? Or this is how they normally attire based on where they go and what they're doing for the day? I say sometimes we really have to look at that in terms of wronging somebody or sticking up for somebody or being an advocate for what we see, because we tend to judge based on the outer appearance as opposed to what is true.
Agreed. I just want to add to that in a big way, what saves us time, not saying that it's right or wrong, is the concept of generalization. So we tend to generalize a lot based on our experiences. And it saves us a lot of time. And of course, with generalizations, we can also be very wrong too. But more often than not, when you generalize, you're gonna be right. But there's also the possibility of being wrong.
That is so true. So you see, you overall, you're going to be informed because communication is wide. You're going to be informed in various ways, or what you see, what you hear, but how you deal with that, I believe, is very important. And the dealing with it, I deemed as judgment. So you take, I believe, in what I'm trying to say is that you take everything on its merit. A person dress a certain way, be cautious. The same level of caution too you would give to a person that dress in quote unquote appropriately. You don't know who the person is. So we just have to be mindful of that as we look at appearances. Because you have wolf in cheap clothing and you have also the genuine situations. So quite interesting, and it is as wide as we can imagine. All right, moving on. This latter part, it says, for a representative account of the counsel to the church on behalf of the aged sick ministers, read Testimonies, Volume 7. As a result of this and other messages from the Lord given at a time when little or nothing was being done for the older workers, the denomination established in 1913 the system of sustentation for retired workers. So here you have it, especially for the old retired workers. A system was put in place by the influence of Mrs. White for such persons. And I believe this, and I believe, as a matter of fact, in what we have read so far, and as we continue, and this one that we're going to look at, the fourth one here about the orphans, it is in keeping with Isaiah 58 as to what the true fast is as well. 4, can we have somebody read this part? To show particular interest in orphans.
Says, after my marriage, I was instructed that I must show a special interest in motherless and fatherless children, taking some under my own charge for a time, I believe that should be, and then finding homes for them. Thus, I would be giving others an example of what they could do. Although called to travel often and having much writing to do, I have taken children of 3 and 5 years of age and have cared for them, educated them, and trained them for responsible positions. I've taken into my home from time to time boys from 10 to 16 years of age, giving them motherly care and a training for service. I have felt in my duty to bring before people that work for which those in every church should feel a responsibility. And okay, selected messages, book 1, page 34. The counsels relating to this topic, this important topic, have been drawn together in welfare ministry, literally a handbook in the field of personal and church welfare activity.
Yeah. So look, you see, this one very, very interesting. Look at the ages that she has taken on to do this. And here's it, after my marriage, so this is when she got married, the motherless and fatherless, these are orphans. And how important it is, as Isaiah spells it out for us, to care, especially for the orphans.
Hey, Elder, you see that book, Welfare Ministry?
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you that that's a book probably we should look at next. After we finish this series with
Child guidance.
Child guidance. It's a powerful read, I'm telling you, Elder.
And if I may add to this, Elder, it is very important that as we look at these things here, we're actually seeing the 10 commandments, and in particular, the second table, loving thy neighbor as thyself.
Amen.
All right? So
I have a question. Sorry, the questions are just popping up in my mind, so I have to ask them.
no, man, ask them, man. You're free.
All right. So it says after my marriage. So for those here who are married, have the thought ever crossed your mind to take into your home the orphans, the fatherless, to care for them for a time? What they call it in the US? There's a word, a term. Foster. Yes, foster parents to children of the state or children of the world.
Yes.
Have anyone of our married people think about it? Yeah.
I'll respond after someone else does.
Yes. And I can speak for Ella Nelson as well, because that's something that he himself told me personally.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
And you have persons.
Ella, so me go on and talk for you.
No problem, Ella. I heard someone else was trying to say something.
I think it's
No, man, Roxy, we just say yes. Because that's something that we've have contemplated very recently. Actually,
very recent.
I mean, outside, not outside people. I mean, children of the world, persons who are in the homes. Not
yeah,
people
man,
that
that's what I'm talking about. Yes, adopting
okay.
adopting children into our family. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I must state, however, that I don't think I would go that far in terms of adopting. And let me tell you why. If I am starting to have problems with that child that I cannot cope with, and I'm not speaking of being impatient in any way, right? But you have done your best, and it becomes unbearable and intolerable to deal with such a child. I would send back that child to his place of origin. So I am cautious not to take it totally from a legal perspective, meaning that I now become that person's, that child's parent, and in a legal way. So I don't think I would be so ready to adopt, but I would take on foster parentage life. Because I believe that there's a slight difference in doing that. Oh, that sounds, Sister Khan?
Well, it sounds like the child guidance that we're reading is not really resonating, from my honest opinion, brother.
Mm.
If it is that we are to train them, teach them, whilst your children have a piece of you and a piece of your wife and your mother, father, and whomever of you and your wife, the one who you'll be adopting, you don't know what their background is or where they're coming from. But being able to teach them the way of the Lord, being able to instruct them to not be citizens of earth only, but citizens working to become citizens of heaven is something that we are admonished to do. So if that's the case, my brother, and you adopt a child who is 2 years, 3 years, 1 year, and they're deemed to be rude and misbehaving, then it's your responsibility as the parent or the guardian or the caregiver to train that child properly and grow them up properly, so that when they become young adults into adulthood, full adulthood, then they'll be responsible people. So I don't totally agree with you. I mean, that's your decision, your what you would do. But for me, as a Christian leader, parent, it would be your responsibility to train that child in how he or she should be. And that's how I see it. So I don't see eye to eye with what you're saying, basically, in terms of sending.
All right, let me just give a little response to that. I believe it's a good one. Now, having had the experience that I have had, I've known quite a few of persons who have taken it the legal route. And I believe that, as a matter of fact, that child or those children who were taken from the foster homes were treated even better than the person's biological children, right? And I don't believe that they would be quite familiar as we are with, let's say, child guidance and so forth, but in ordinary experience, they were quite good parents to those foster children. And even after a certain years, that are those foster children started to ill-treat the very persons who were taking care of them. So I know that there are risk factors, and I believe we have to be practical. Let's say when you look at Cain and Abel, two brothers, yet still one was basically evil, right? You have also varying factors, especially now that this child is not necessarily your flesh and blood, and you have all other things that possibly that child might be exposed to. You remember, I know your promise, from your heart perspective, you really want to love and care for that child, right? And you have made an attempt, and you have done all that you possibly could from a good understanding of parenting, and yet still, because of the mannerism, because of what maybe the child was exposed to in his infancy and all of these things, yes, these things can play a part. So you're looking at it from a wider perspective and not a limited perspective, and that is what informed my decision. And that is how I would do it, just in case that I have to. But if I don't have to, let's say the child is one in which you can work with, and it doesn't have to be all that blissful and as if the child responds to everything that you instruct that child in a positive way. There's going to be challenges, but if the challenges are far exceeding that which you're able to cope, send back that child.
I hear you, and as I say, that's fine.
Child guidance is indeed child guidance is indeed having a say in how I am informed in taking on certain things, and I believe that is wise counsel as well.
That's okay. That's fine.
All right. Any other share on this matter? Or we move to 5. To lecture and to write on the home. Here we go again. It says, 2 of Mrs. White's favorite sermon topics were temperance and Christian home. She urged the church to educate parents in child training and to help them to make their Christian home a fortress, held by God impervious to Satan's attack. This was an essential preparation. Parents needed training in child education. So here she counsels as well and lectures and the home and speaking about what we are studying with child guidance as well. Anyone else want to comment on that?
No, I think we deal with that earlier on already.
All right. You can jump to 6 then.
You can read this part too.
All right. Can someone read this portion, please?
In Mrs. White's first published Testimony for the Church, issued in 1855, not 6 pages are covered until we come to a message on parental responsibility. And this was followed in later years by literally hundreds of pages of instructions for parents, homemakers, and children. A full section in Ministry of Healing is devoted to the home, pages 359 to 406. She wrote scores of articles on home and child guidance for the journals of the church, and wrote many letters of counsel to parents. This combined counsel is currently available to all the Adventist home and child guidance.
Wow. And I believe this is very, very, very good.
Excellent books.
Yes, Adventist home. I believe that I should have known what is written in it before I really even have a home. That would have assisted me greatly. But afterwards, after having my first child, getting my first child, we did it for our devotion, and it really aided. And I believe it is a book that, as it says, no Adventist home should be without it.
All right. Dr. Marvin. Thank you, sir, for continuing with Sabbath School. We are now at that time. You know what I can appreciate is the fact that the saying, it's not biblical enough, but I mean the principle can be found in the Bible. It says the devil finds work for idle hands. And if we had, one of the things that we spoke about, Marvin, is that if we had dismissed early, then who knows, because our minds are not engaged in an environment like this, church, then who knows what we'll be off doing. But the fact that we're here, and when we thought we had over an hour, but look how quickly the time went by, and we're all engaged and being edified, and we're all learning, wonderful use of the time. So I want to thank you again for just availing yourself. All right.
No problem.
So at this time, brethren, we're going to move into the closing act, which will be done by Sister Angela Lowe. Sister Lowe, you with us?
Present.
Yes, I want to just point out that we have about 7 minutes before sunsets.
Correct. So, Sister Lowe, over to you with the closing act.
Blessings. Happy Sabbath, everyone. I know we're having a beautiful time alongside of the weather, and to know that coming through the week and preparing for Wednesday with the storm and everything. Tuesday evening, I found myself going through time of trouble.